Aloha, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Junior Keikoewa Jr. And so it's been quite a week. I've been answering a lot of DMs, actually, mostly DMs. We had one email from the website, so they want, they're telling me, Unks, you gotta tell them. No, they call me Unks. So they go, Unks, bro, you gotta tell them the website. Okay, just go to jrkjr.com and sign up for the newsletter. And the newsletter will let you know immediately when we put out another podcast. And some cool stuff too. Like we don't use it for marketing. Like, we're not trying to sell you anything or put you on an email list, or other than, letting you know when the podcast is or the next one. Anyway, but jrkjr.com. Now, if you want to email me direct, okay, and I will answer each and every email, you got to give me chance, because like last week, I couldn't get to everybody's email, but I kind of I think I got 3 more. I got 3 more to catch up. Anyway, it's hereforyouusa@gmail.com. hereforyouusa@gmail.com. Okay, and the stats, we got to start with the attitude of gratitude, like we always do. We got to say mahalo. Thank you very much for listening. And wow. So the 18 to 22-year-olds have improved. We're up to 5%. So there's not too many of them. But yeah, our demographics is mostly 28 to dead. And we gotta thank all you 28-year-olds too. And so anyway, I had a couple of compliments and a couple of emails. DMs actually, a couple of compliments. And I had one email, and So the DM went what brought that on? And I'm like, brought what? Oh, you mean my story, right? Because I told my story, and he goes, yeah, that was awesome. And with the DMs, right? It's like, when you answer that first question, you never know what's coming back, right? And I'm like, you mean my story? I just reply you mean my story? He goes, yeah, that was awesome. And wow, we didn't know that about you. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not a big thing. I mean, everybody has something, And I got to tell you who inspired me one of the people that inspired me to tell my story was a very famous comedian in Hawaii. And I learned a lot from him, in a short period of time. I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot about him. And it was a very short period of time, and I was privileged to just sit in on his radio show. I wasn't working with him per se. I was just there helping out, laughing, maybe providing some ambiance, and and I would just come and we would eat breakfast, and just sit down and watch him work, and he would put on a performance for me, because he's an animated guy, so he's a stand-up comedian. There's a very different type of comedy with theater of the mind and then a stand-up comic. It's very, very different. But watching him do his radio show, if you watch me do my radio show, it's mostly in my head. Okay, so I'm not really that animated and I don't know, moving my arms around and gesturing and that kind of thing. It's mostly in my head that things are, I'm putting things together. And the reason I do that, and the reason it's called theater of the mind, is that you draw pictures with words. So you want to make people part of the scene, so to speak. You want to put them right there in the scene, so they know exactly what kind of day it is, or what kind of atmosphere was it, or what kind of crowd was it, or wherever you were. Was it at the beach? Was it hot? And so certain words that you have to use to describe the situation, right? And you gotta describe it quick, because we don't have all day, right? So you gotta throw that picture down, and it's gotta be instantaneous, and people need to catch on, and then you need to make them laugh. And anyway, but I sat across from one of Hawaii's greatest stand-up comedians ever. And I gotta say that back in the day when he was starting, okay, I was there. We went to support him, right? So me and my fiance at the time and all her girlfriends from the bank, and we went and we sat down in the club, and we had a big table, and we used to go and support him every week. And so we saw this guy. We saw this guy go, boom, 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 you know. And we saw him do all these amazing things in public. And then, like, when, you know, this is like after the fact, right? Almost. So it was it's kind of like after the fact, right? And he actually made me a part of his last big concert, and then, you know, come to find out, well, he's doing one more pretty soon, so there's more coming, right? And I mean, that's the way it is with performers. There's always another show. For me, my official response right now is that I retired 7 years ago, and from performing, doing music. Okay, music. I don't do stand-up. I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm not funny in that way. My funny is where nobody can see me, kind of thing, in a radio studio. And as far as I know, I'm retired. I'm retired from that too. So I'm retired, and you know, it wasn't COVID that shut me down. I was slowly, you know, like going down. And then I thought to myself, the last thing I tried to do was I tried to build a show around this guy that I train. And I'm not gonna mention names because we still may do that. I'm not sure. I need to see the climate. First of all, I need to decide if I want to do it or not. And right now in my mind, I'm like, I did everything I set out to do. I've done everything I set out to do. And now I work in the electronic world. I like in the technical world. So I'm learning that stuff. I'm doing those things. You know, I'm doing marketing. I'm doing a different kind of thing. And the beauty about that, for you guys that are involved, for you guys that are thinking of getting involved, it is so cool to be in an environment where you can build stuff and nobody sees anything, like nothing, right? See, in the old days, if you went into business, or, you know, like when I put up my office, we had a grand opening, right? Oh man, people started talking already, right? And you know, there are some people who try to bring you down, right? Steve Harvey calls it dirt, right? Because they throw dirt on you. Like, that's what he says, right? I say salt, like people salt you. But whatever. Everybody has their own term, right? But he says, without dirt, you can't grow. Without dirt, there's no fertilizer. Without dirt, right? Nothing grows without dirt. So, and that was a really good metaphor and a really good speech that I heard him give on YouTube. And I saw part of it on TikTok first, and then it, you know, popped up. And then this morning, my nephew pops up on TikTok and goes, "Unks!" Like, he goes, "How's it out go?" You know, and he goes, "Wow, I just learning this kind of stuff. You're putting up on TikTok, and now I see you put them over here." So anyway, but you know, it's so cool working in a world where people do not see you build stuff, and you can make. I want to tell you guys, you can make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I have not made millions of dollars yet, but I can tell you, I have made tens of thousands of dollars online. And I work online now. So I work online, I teach online, I life coach online, everything is online. So, you know, as a result, yeah, I put on those 25 pounds. I think everybody did during COVID, right? And so, but I work at home, and you know, I get up, the bed is over there, the office is in the corner, and it's crazy because, like, you know, when I'm done, and if I'm tired, when I finish work, there's no drive home. There's nothing now. You know, I shut down the office. It's obsolete. That's what COVID did. It made the office obsolete. And it actually forced us to move everything online because it was just the thing to do. And, you know, I think if somebody would have tried to persuade me to do that before COVID, I would have been like, no, you know, because I'm a people person. And I like to interact with people. I really do. I don't get to react too much with them, or interact with them, I should say. Not too much anymore until, like, you know, maybe I go down the store, see people, "Hey, Junior," you know, shake hands, whatever. Now it's like fist bump, right? Nobody wants to shake hands. It's not like the old days. But anyway, so that happened, right? And COVID actually put an end to to the entertainment, to the wedding and party business, to the roadshow. And I was building the roadshow around somebody else. And I thought, well, maybe I can build a roadshow around him and then, go support him, maybe do the MC part and let him do the entertainment and, like that. But that didn't pan out. And that, if you want to say it's a failure, you can say it's a failure. But I've had tons of failures. I mean, tons. Hawaiians, I fail every week. I fail at something every week. So here's the lesson on failure. Okay, if you can take failure as okay, God said don't go over there. God wants you to go over here. That's why He shut that down. God did not want you to experience that, so He shut you down over here. And now you got to go over there. So that over there means a different tact, right? A different, they say that in yachting, but a different direction. So you got to go in a different direction. You got to do something else, or you just got to stay where you're at, because where you're at is the thing to do, right? And sometimes we don't think so, because I started out in my entertainment career on radio, never went nowhere. Then all of a sudden, that magical day, right? And then boom, the rest, as they say, is history. You guys know the story. So, but as far as the personal story, nobody got that. And when I was sitting with that comedian, right, he was telling me these personal things about his life. And then we went on the radio and he started talking about these things like on the radio, like in front of God and everybody. And I'm like, whoa. And it taught me something. I think the thing that it really taught me was that if people like you, if they're actually, I don't know, I hate to say the word fans, fans, but if they're your fans, if they like you, if they're fond of you, if they enjoy what you do, okay, and they're the ones supporting you, like they listen over here, you go over there, you do a show over there, they show up, they because they enjoy what you do. Those people appreciate the sincerity. Those people appreciate that kind of openness, right? Because they see the human side and they go, oh yeah, bro, Junior is human. Because I remember meeting my heroes, right? And it was kind of awkward once I got to know them and hang out with them. Because when I would hang out with them, right, and I got to know them, I would see things that were very human. And you're only subjected to the show side before you get to know them, right? And I gotta say that a lot of you guys are very fortunate that you don't get to know your heroes. Okay, because the image of your heroes may change. It may change. A lot of people that I thought very highly of, right? And these are people that when I was a kid, I watched them on TV, right? And I gotta say that, the law of attraction, right? Like attracts like, and you attract into your world what you focus on, right? And I focused on entertainment, and I got to meet the majority of my heroes, like the majority. Okay, and I gotta say that the majority of them were fantastic. They were really cool. And these include like a laundry list of legends that are a generation above me, maybe 2 generations above me. I think starting 2 generations above me, and then it like comes down, right? And then there were guys that I came up with that and I want to say came up in a more humble sense. I want to say coming up like working around each other, or working together, or working in the same industry but in different areas, in different venues. Some guys are on TV, some guys are on cable TV, some guys are on different radio stations, some guys are TV stations, or some guys are just entertainers, right? And there was a group of these guys that were around, I want to say not so much my same age, because many of them were younger, a few of them were older, but generally in the same entertainment category. Like we're in the same genre, like entertainment. And I saw a lot of these guys that were really solid guys, and they still solid guys, and they still going. And then there were, these other guys who I want to say had the political advantage, and a lot of those guys are not around today. A lot of the politically favored people that I saw, that I was working around, they're gone already. There's very few left. So if you want to look at it like, okay, you start out with all these guys and who crosses the finish line, for me, in my world, I crossed the finish line 7 years ago, and it was very quietly because COVID came and provided a great distraction for a lot of us to just bow out and say, okay, Paul, we're done. I mean, really, my best friend died. He just made 7 years on the 15th of July, and when he was alive, right, we set out with entertainment goals. We set out with all these goals, goals in entertainment, goals to make recordings, goals to produce other people, goals to do, and we did that. My compositions are out there on several other artists' recording efforts, CDs and stuff that probably is no longer in print. I go online, I don't see them anymore. But anyway, it was there. It was done. And this one guy, I remember this one guy in this record company in Waipahu. That's an area over here on Oahu, the island of Oahu, and we never got paid for the music that he used. But at the time, right? At the time, it wasn't about, oh, he's not paying us. At the time, it was like, bro, we're on somebody's CD. You wrote that song on somebody's CD, and my best friend, Brother Wayne, he recorded the music, and we went to this recording studio in this other town, Mililani, that does over here, and so these are things that you do along the way. And along the way, you see a lot of these people skyrocket in popularity. They skyrocket in money. They skyrocket in all kinds of, and you're watching them go. You're watching them go, and you're watching them. You watch the change, and you see the change, and you watch the change, right? And I gotta say that this guy this comedian, right, that I went to go watch, and you could call this like after the heyday, right? Like when things are like, this was pre-COVID and whatever, but still it was like, the biggest part of his career was done, and we saw him like bam, 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 like huge stuff, like big stuff, right? And he did the biggest things that any comedian ever did over here in Hawaii, right? And so here we are, like after the fact, right? And now the digital world took over, and now it was all about the Instagram influencers and whatever. I was working with a bunch of them, and so I'm sitting here now watching him, and it was like a comedy show, like sitting there watching a free show every morning, and it really helped me forget the fact that 7 years ago, Brother Wayne died, and to me, in my mind at the time, the music died. And the music didn't really die. I mean, thank God we recorded tons of it. But I just didn't feel like music. I still don't feel like playing music. I still don't, I don't mind playing with the band like we did right before COVID stopped everything. I don't mind performing with the band and stuff like that with the orchestra. But as far as me, like grabbing my guitar and going somewhere and playing music, I mean, there's just no feel for that. There's no desire to get to know anybody musically and get together with somebody and then, going and do music. That's not even a possibility as far as, what I want to do kind of thing. But we see these guys, right? Some of these guys, and they take off and they get successful, right? And they're just going here, going there, going to the mainland. They're doing all kinds of big stuff. They're doing movies. They're doing all this stuff. And then when you see them towards the end, and this is why people say, okay, now this is for you 23-year-olds that just signed on to Uncle's podcast, okay? This is for you young guys. You guys, this is an old saying that I heard before any of my stuff ever happened. And it says that you meet the same guys on the way down as you meet on the way up. And what that means is when you meet these guys on the way up, okay, like when you're on the way up, like when you're doing something significant or what you want to call successful or whatever, that you gotta really watch yourself and pay attention to yourself and check yourself and go, hey, come on, like what, am I handling this the right way? Am I acting appropriately? Am I okay? Am I being okay? And that's one question that I constantly had to ask myself. Because believe me, Hawaiians, when you have everyone telling you the man, okay, after a while you start feeling like the man. And if you don't have some kind of, reality checkpoint, okay, and you part of it has to be within yourself. And you have to check, right? Because we saw so many guys get carried away, right? But on the way down, at the end of the road, or I don't want to say the end of the road, that sounds so morbid, but towards that period of time where the biggest time is over, where the biggest, because you never think it's going to end. I told you guys this on another podcast, right? You never anticipate, next year everything's going to slow down and that's going to be the end of my run. You see, that doesn't happen. You never think like that. You're just working. You're going, when we were doing 5 shows on a weekend, we never thought anything else but we got to go work. And the contracts kept coming and we kept going. And so, and that came to a I want to say, it slowed down so much. Like it started slowing down even when Wayne was alive. And so I can, looking back now, I can see the slow decline. And the decline started when this guy that I was working with at a radio station left. And it's the slow declines, and it was a gradual descent. And I looked at it and I was trying to revive the descent or the decline. And I was like, putting out advertising. We were doing more, looking for more promotional opportunities, that kind of thing. And then eventually, Brother Wayne came down with cancer. And that's when slow became crawl. And that was 2 years of gut-wrenching, and it was a gut-wrenching experience. It really was. And I think, you like to walk away from something going, no, that didn't affect me. I had a conversation with this guy that I work with, and he in the parking lot, we had this long catch-up, conversation. And in the conversation, right, he said, boy, you really handled that well when Wayne died. And I was like, well, just in my head, right, I'm asking myself, this is interesting, right? But then, I have to remind myself, right, the people don't see me. I'm not down shaking hands and kissing babies all over the place, when you first get out there and do stuff, right, you have to go. You have to go because it's part of the self-promotion thing, and you got to go judge beauty pageants, and you got to go do whatever you got to do, but all those things, those public things. But after a while, I just kind of withdrew from that. And the reason why I withdrew from that is number one, like I can't stand plastic stuff, just fake stuff, right? And that's, for lack of a better description, that's what you see when you get invited to these parties that are just networking opportunities, basically. Okay, and so I'm not that good of a networker, right? But I started getting invited to all these CD release parties and all these these kinds of media events and whatever, and I never went. I went to a couple of them, right? And it was just so sugary fake to me that I never wanted to go again. I just never wanted to go again. And it wasn't the industry's fault, and it wasn't even the people at the party's fault. It was the reason why you're there, right? Now, part of the reason is, yeah, okay, you know these guys and you're happy for them and whatever. But it's not like you go and you sit down and you're just happy for them. No, everybody's talking to everybody. Everybody's telling everybody about their latest project. Everybody's giving business cards. So it's a networking kind of deal, right? And you show face and you pass out cards and you shake hands and you talk story and everybody agrees to do everything under the sun with you. Like, oh yeah, maybe we should do this. Oh yeah, hey, give me a call on Monday. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, none of it ever happened. Like, none of it. Absolutely none of it, right? But this is the game. And this is part of the game that you gotta play. And after a few, I think I went to, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these or something, and in the early days, and then afterwards I said, no, that's it. And so I didn't show up, and I, as a result, I stay home and I work on my companies, my businesses. I work on my things, right? And this is a lesson for you guys, Hawaiians, okay? Pay attention to you. Never mind anybody else. It's about you. Your life is about you, okay? And I don't mean that you exclude everybody. I mean your focus, your concentrated focus needs to be on, number one, what do you want? What do you want to materialize? What do you want out of this life? Some people want a nice family, okay? Some people want a banging career. They want to knock off, I don't know, they want to buy so many properties, or sometimes they want to sell so many properties. They want to be the best realtor, right? Whatever. And you got to figure that part out. That's the only thing you need to figure out. What do I really want in life? And for the longest time, I wanted to be out there. And eventually I got out there. And then once I was out there, I looked around and I went, there's no out there. This is just work. This is just this. You see what I'm saying? So the perception of this is huge, right? There's a huge perception. And in fact, I went to this shop that this guy was the supervisor at. And I went to this shop, and what I was doing there is immaterial to the podcast, okay? That's not a podcast, but I went to this thing, and I walk in the shop, and I brought, I just happened to park like right in the front, right? And I walked in because the parking was in the front, and this guy made like this wise ass comment to me about drug dealing, and I turned and I looked and I smiled. And I thought to myself, because I'm not the sharpest guy, okay, with my ADHD brain, like you guys have heard on the previous 3 podcasts. Okay, my ADHD brain does not put stuff together real fast, and that's why I said before, like about my work when I do my comedy and stuff, I gotta think about stuff first. I'm not a good ad-lib person unless I'm familiar with the foundation. Okay, where do we have to end up with this joke or routine? What's the punchline, and where is it delivered? And then between here and there, I can do any kind, but I know where I'm gonna end up. Okay, so that's, I have to have the plan in my head. Now, some guys, they're very gifted and they can just ad-lib and make you laugh along the way, and it doesn't matter where they end up, right? I need a destination. Okay, I'm just like that. My brain works like that. And I'm thinking in my head, when this guy said drug dealer, I'm thinking in my head, oh, he thinks that you do all of this because you deal drugs. and so the other part of me, right, goes, oh, let him think Hawaiian, let him think Hawaiian. And so I let it go, right? So and then I kind of like, okay. So then, like, from that time on, whenever I went to that place and that guy was around, I purposely threw like a drug dealer vibe, like a syndicate vibe, yeah. So I am guilty of leaving a lot of different people with a lot of different impressions. But you know what? The impression that if I get like they're getting something from me or whatever, I will go with that. So, and I know many different people for many different things. So to some people, I'm the voice teacher. To some people, I'm the radio guy. To some people, I'm the musical artist. To some people, I'm the composer. To some people, I'm the producer. To some people, I'm the owner of AFM Worldwide, which owns AFM Hawaii Music, which produces CDs, which, you know, that kind of thing. And then, so I'm known as that. And I love to sit in the producer's chair. That's one of my favorite jobs. One of my favorite jobs is to sit in the producer's chair and record talent. If I could do that, like if I had enough clients, or if I worked for a record company that I could just sit down and produce people. You know, I tried that. I tried to get into a record company to do that very thing, because there's an art to it. It's a very, people think that you just sit there and, you know, give commands and bark orders, and no, it's more than that. It's a creative thing. And mixing is another thing, right? To mix the recordings. Anyway, whatever. But that's one of my favorite things to do. And to some people, I'm that. But one of my, you know, my favorite all-time thing to do is to be on the radio making any kind and making people laugh. And being at parties and making people laugh. I mean, you know, when I used to do my act, and I used to do the comedy portion, and I used to walk through the crowd and talk to people and make them laugh, and, you know, and I thought, because I'm not a stand-up comic, like I said, but I enjoyed that. And that was one of my favorite things to do. And the crowd gets it. They get you. As soon as you're joking with the first guy, they get you. They start to play with you. And that makes it even more funny, because you can turn that into something bigger as far as a joke, right? Or whatever, a routine, or whatever it is. And you know, so that's my absolute favorite thing to do. But yeah, there's so many interests I had, right? So I kind of tend to let, you know, whatever so-and-so thinks of me, okay, we'll go down that road, and that's who I'll be to you. And, you know, and then pretty soon, you know, somebody will say, wow, hey, I didn't know you were on the radio. I mean, there's people that I teach, that I've taught for years, that are only finding out now because I just went back on the radio for a couple of times, 2-3 times, whatever, just to guest host, you know, that kind of thing. Or actually, it wasn't guest host. I was a guest. I was a guest. I was a co-host, guest, whatever. One of the players, as it were. And they go, wow, we didn't know you did radio. And I go, oh yeah, you know, and whatever. And sometimes it's other things. But, you know, the basic underlying premise of why I'm mentioning all of these things is that the same people you meet on the way up, okay, from when you don't have anything going on till like you have a lot going on, and then you have, you know, the boom success volume of things going on, and then you get to the point where you kind of run that out, because everybody has a season. So you young guys, just remember Uncle said that you guys have a season, okay? And this season is, unpredictable. You don't know how long. This season could be 5 years long. It could be 10 years long. It could be 15, 20 years long. Okay, but whatever happens, that's your amount that you gotta go. Now, when you start coming down, or when things slow down, okay, when the smoke clears, you're gonna find out who the real people are. You're gonna find out who your real friends are. Because the guys that are still around you, the guys that still come around you, the guys that you haven't pissed off, or vice versa, or whatever, right? And you guys are still, you know, friendly. I don't want to say friends, because to me, friends is a different deal. Friends, I can count them on one hand, and maybe I have a couple fingers left, right? It was never my point to please everybody, so I'm not a people pleaser. As a result, there's not a contacts list for me with hundreds and thousands of friends. I don't believe in that. That's just not me. It's just not me. Okay. My public life is very public, and my private life is very private. But I will say that because I hold the word friend in a special category. So I'll say friendly, but the guys that you are friendly with in the beginning, the guys that help you in the beginning, and you remain true to them. Okay, and when I say true to them, it's like you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Okay, but the other thing too, the guys that help you along the way, you never do anything or put yourself in a position to where that guy could get burned from this thing that you're involved in, or it goes against him or goes against their efforts or whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah, you cannot. That's called a conflict of interest. So you never want to put yourself at odds with people that helped you. Okay. And to me, I think that's the most important thing, as far as integrity goes. And you gotta have integrity no matter what you do. I don't care if you're shining shoes. I don't care if you're raking leaves in the park with the city and county for a living. I don't care what you do, but you gotta have integrity. Okay, and that's, to me, that's part of integrity. If somebody got you a job with the city and county and he works in a certain department, you're not gonna go against him or the department in such a way that would affect him, kind of thing, you know. But anyway, yeah, so when the smoke clears and things slow down, and those guys are still left. Those guys are still, okay, those are called the survivors. And those survivors are still going to be there. And those survivors will still be there. And everybody can look around at each other and laugh and go, yeah, you remember when, you know, this happened? Remember when that happened? And it's a good feeling that you get inside. And the reason it's a good feeling that you get inside, because, wow, I remember the days, because you can stand there and you can literally tell a guy, bro, I remember when you didn't have nothing. I remember when you had that old beat up car that, you know, and then now, bro, look at your truck. Or look at your Mercedes, or look at your BMW, or whatever they got. Look at your Bugatti. Okay. So I haven't had anybody that I started out with that has a Bugatti yet. Okay. But some people I know, like, could easily go out and buy one. To me, that in Honolulu would be overkill, right? But I mean, just that would be like way super topper kind of thing. But yeah, that's important. Integrity is important, always. Okay. So yeah, always be respectful of the people that help you, and be respectful of entities that help you. You know, I remember being I was on this project once, and this guy was working for a company, and we're going to talk about the law of attraction right after this, kid. But this guy, right? He was working for this company that I was working for, and I went in and we had this meeting, and I said, I happened to say in the meeting, well, I'm a company man, you know, all the way. Don't worry about it. And he goes, screw the company. Well, that's not the word he used, but you know, it's a G-rated podcast. And he said, screw the company. And I said, what? You know, and I looked at it and I go, oh, okay. Well, you know what? Like from a personal standpoint, I could see his position. Because it's not really about the company. It's about you. And that was his point. It wasn't about the company. But in the broad scheme of things, right? I felt we had to support the company because the company was supporting us, right? So, but he didn't look at it that way. I had my own way to look at it. But anyway, so now the law of attraction and how this plays into everything, okay? Because we do discuss manifesting things and, you know, all of that. So here's what I'll tell you. When you approach things in this way, right? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. You don't, you know, on one podcast, I said, burn the bridges all the way down, right? Like burn them all. If you're going to burn a bridge, burn the bridge to the ground so that there's no possible way that bridge gets rebuilt. Okay? Because people love to rebuild bridges. Okay? And here's what I mean about that. Okay? So, let's say you had the outs with someone, right? And this is, you know, temporary, right? To a lot of people, because it's like elementary school. You know, when you have that friend, right, that has candy, and you make friends with him because he has candy, and pretty soon he runs out of candy, and you guys do something and then become enemies, right? And then down the road, you get candy. Okay, all of a sudden, the guy that hated you, that ran out of the candy that you guys had some drama with, now he's showing you, you know, all kinds of love, right? Like, hey, bro, how's it? Remember me? You know, that kind of thing. Because now you have the candy. See? Now you have something. Now he wants to be a part of that. And you can't really blame people for that, okay? Now, this is human nature. This is part of human nature. We all love winners. Okay, nobody wants a loser. And this is why when you are left without anything, or let's say you retire, let's say you, well, not even retire. You young guys. You guys quit your job, you go to another job. Maybe you're no longer in the same industry. Okay. Now, when that happens, right, a lot of people from that industry that you were in, they don't go around you anymore. Right? People, you got nothing going on. There's nothing in it for any of them, or it's just a different world you stepped into, and it's not what they do. And, they just drop off one by one. I had an uncle that was in entertainment, and he knew some of the biggest guys in town, in entertainment, and the people who controlled entertainment. And, when he came down with he had open heart surgery. And he had a stroke right after that. That was the beginning of several strokes that ruined his life. But when he had that surgery, I remember, I saw this from my own eyes. All the people that were around him for years that swore on the Bible that he was cool, and all that stuff, right? And there's a song, right, by Fleetwood Mac. And the lyrics are, players only love you when they're playing. Okay. And he was playing, right? He was one of the players, right? There was, it was snowing in the nightclubs. This is not a podcast, always. But anyway, he was with all these guys, right? And they was all, in the same club, right? Well, guess what? When he had open heart surgery, right? The right there, that was the stopping point. And after that, in his recovery, a couple of them came around. And then after that, nobody. And that's the way it stayed until he was gone. And, he's not dead or anything. He's on a different island. But he's not here. And I saw just a rapid, it was almost like the whole group was like, oh, well, no need already. And they moved on. Without him, so talk about nobody getting left behind. He got left behind, and everybody just deserted him, and just like he had the plague or something, right? And I never saw anything like it, but it taught me a big lesson, right? And so I never placed the value, and this, this went back before this, but I never did place a big value on a group situation, like a clique situation. I never had to be part of a clique. I tried to be part of several cliques, but it wasn't cool. I have this joke. Actually, it was a real thing. It wasn't really a joke thing, but at my first, I gotta take you guys back. We're going to the left field right now. We're going out here to the left again. Okay, so when I first went into, it wasn't when I first, it was like my second radio job. And this was back when I was 22 years old. And this was the biggest, biggest opportunity in my young life, in my 20s. And so the first huge opportunity for me. And the program director took me down to this restaurant, right? And there, back in the old days, in the early 80s, there were these dark restaurants that people would go on lunch hour, okay? And a lot of these guys would go because they would call it a 2 martini lunch, right? And they would have a couple drinks, and then they would go back to the office. Okay? This is the old days. Now, I don't know what they do now, okay? I know on Zoom, I know some of my friends put stuff in their water bottles and make it look like they're drinking water, and they're not really drinking water. I know that goes on. But this is what, a business lunch was. And you would go on these business lunches. Now, not every business lunch included alcohol. And we didn't have alcohol at my lunch, right? But we sat down, and the guy who was huge, he was a producer. He was a radio program director. He was on the radio, he was a big radio star. And he sat across from me, and he said, if you stay with me for 1 year, I will make you the biggest thing in radio, because he saw the potential in me, right? And I said, okay. I said, yeah, you got a deal. And he hired me. Okay. Now, the part I'm getting to is I was in his office after we signed the paperwork and everything. We signed the tax papers, the forms, the what. So I was formally hired. Then this other guy, another, DJ kind of guy. Well, back in the day, we call him disc jockeys, right? And so this other disc jockey walks in the thing, and he looks at this guy, right? No names, Hawaiians, no names. But he looks at this famous guy sitting across from me, my boss now, right? Because he just hired me. And he goes, gee, I don't know, is Junior cool? Well, he asked the guy that walked in, okay? He goes, well, is Junior cool? And it was an awkward moment because, like, all three of us kind of looked at each other like, cool? Cool? Here's what was happening, okay? He was asking the DJ that knew me, because the DJ and I were getting to know each other. Like, we were friendly. We were very friendly. And he died already. He's gone. It really hit me hard when he passed away, because he taught me a lot of stuff. But anyway, we were kind of looking at each other, and I was going, cool. Okay. I put it together, right? What he was asking was, did I party? Okay. And then he said it after a little while. He said, does Junior party? And then they look at me and they go, I don't know, Junior, do you party? And I'm like, yeah, I party. And then I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, party? Like, everybody parties, right? And then I thought about it. Okay, here's what was really going on. And I did not know, in my, absent-mindedness kind of, I wasn't very savvy, right? And here's what was really going on. They were trying to figure out if I did cocaine or not. Like, if I partake in wild parties, right? Like, do I party, right? Now, these guys were partying with the biggest guys that were anything in Hawaii, and I mean huge, the top guys, right? And I didn't party, and I didn't do cocaine, and I didn't do all that stuff, right? I mean, and I didn't even smoke weed at that time. I think I gave up. I think the last time I smoked weed was about a year before that, maybe a year and a half before that, because I didn't smoke weed since I was 21. I still haven't. I mean, it's not because I think it's bad or whatever. No judgment. It's just not me. And so, but anyway, that happened. Okay. So, and that's why I say that I was never cool, because I was never cool as far as fitting in or doing as the clique did to be in the clique. There were certain cliques that I tried to get in years later. And this was, even when I became popular, right? There was this huge clique where I worked. And I was contracted to the business side of stuff. And I tried to get into this clique, and it didn't work. I just wasn't cool enough. And that's fine. Because my primary concern, right, was the businesses I had, which I had two, the production company and the school, the singing school. And not only that, but the focus for me was my music. And I gotta tell you guys that, my music, when I say my music, I'm talking about America's music and Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, Mel Torme, those guys. Because that's what I studied. And we lived, ate, and breathed that stuff. And that's all I listened to in the car. And you're talking about a young guy, like from, I don't know, maybe, I want to say 12 years old, I was listening to this stuff till now. And I still listen to this stuff. Not every time. I'll pull up Frank Sinatra in the car once in a while and I'll listen. But, this is the stuff that I studied. And I don't know why I was drawn to it. I was just drawn to it. I think it had to do with the TV shows I saw as a kid. But that's where I went. And so when I wasn't doing the radio thing, when I wasn't doing other things, other jobs, I did other things. I did medical collections. I did all kinds of stuff. Rent to own, kind of, different odd jobs, security, lots of security jobs. I had quite a few different security jobs, but anyway, that, was my focus. The music was my focus, and getting to be where I wanted to be, which was doing two shows a night, 6 nights a week. That was my goal, because that's what I saw, and that was my goal, right? So now in retrospect, when I look at everything, right, I consider myself to be retired for 7 years. And when I look back at everything, I go, oh, okay, I can see the gradual decline, the gradual slow stop. Now, some people weren't that lucky, okay? Now, the law of attraction, right, it's like when you change your focus, things change, right? When you change back again, things follow. So God is like that GPS. And when you change direction and change thought and change your goals, then God starts to lay out the path towards that goal, right? And then you start laying the foundation and the baby steps, and you go towards whatever that is, and God will direct you to it, okay? And God will start to open new doors for you. And the reason why I had to finally say 7 years ago, okay, I'm retired, is because I had to get my mind in a new, fresh place, because it was not doing so well. And when this guy, he just happened to comment to me, he goes, wow, you took that pretty well. Actually, I didn't take it very well at all. In fact, I'm still taking it, right? But here's the thing, always. I don't lick my wounds in public, okay? I don't put when I'm in the emergency room with a bullet wound through the head or something, I don't put a picture on Facebook and go, oh, okay, this is, can you please pray for me? I need your prayers, prayer warriors. Okay, no. I do my praying in private, okay? Like I said, my private life is real private. So, telling my story was a big deal. Because, right, I figured, okay, no harm in telling the story. I was inspired by this comedian, and then this other person was telling me, in social media, you gotta do this. You gotta tell your story. Otherwise, people will just leave you alone after a while. They just go, to hell with this guy, whatever. And people started thanking me when I left my story, right? But the big lesson I learned from this comedian was that when people like you, it doesn't matter what you tell them. They're going to like you anyway, if they like you. If they don't like you, you haven't lost anything. You see? You haven't lost a thing. So, in other words, always, you have nothing to lose. Okay? Because if they like you, they're going to like you because they like you. So, unless you do something to offend them or whatever, right? And if they don't like you, there's nothing you can do to make them like you, alright? Okay? So don't worry about that. And that was a big, thing for me, like telling my story, because back in the day, and like I said, back in the day when I was telling my story, back in the day could have been 10 years ago, as early as 10 years ago, people would not hire you if they found out that kind of stuff, like, oh, you have that kind of issue, oh, that's going on, and they wouldn't hire you. Well, you know what, Hawaiians, it's rather safe to say that I don't need a job, and I don't need to be hired by anybody, especially at this age in life, so I'm good already, okay? But that's not why I waited. I waited, I was urged, from this guy Jonathan that teaches me now, and he has ADHD, and he's helping others with ADHD, and that's why I did it, because I figured, well, if there's parents out there with ADHD kids, they can play this for them, and they could say, hey, look, this guy got ADHD, look what he did. So this guy did this, he did that, he teaches this, does whatever, right? And then that can be an example. And my life is an example for the other people that, people that I was on the street with. I don't know where they are. They could be dead. They could be in prison. They could be on the North Shore, enjoying life. I don't know. But I'm just saying that it's an example. And I think in life, what we have to do is set examples. I think we have to be the example. And you know what? When all the eyeballs are on you, when a lot of eyes are on you, you can't help but be the example, because you start having conversations with yourself and you start telling yourself, like, hey, come on, man up already. Just suck it up and walk it off, because people are looking, right? And what are you going to leave these guys with? You're going to leave them looking at you like you're some kind of pansy, or you're going to leave them looking at you like, wow, Yeah, brother was down. Brother picked himself up. Brother continued. Brother just kept on going. He kept on going. And all of a sudden, one day he died. Bro, he had a good life. He was fulfilled. His whole life was a blessing. And that's what my life is, Hawaiians. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here. So thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for being here, Hawaiians. And just remember, the same guys you meet on the way up in life when you're starting out, okay? When everything dies down and everything slows down, or like the pandemic, when everything comes to a screeching halt, you can find out who your friends. Yeah. Yep. You can find out who your friends, Hawaiians. Yep, you can find out who your enemies too, because they're not going to be around. They'll be gone. Hey, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Brother Randy, Sister Jerry over at Island Club and Spa down in Kaka'ako, my favorite location, the only location, as a matter of fact. Hey, and we also like to thank Voice Master Enterprises, family of service companies, AFM Hawaii Music, featuring the music of Mr. Darren Chinan. Until next time, I'm Junior Keiko Elva Jr. saying mahalo and aloha.